So today I'll be doing something that's a little bit out of the norm. It's not tile. I'll be doing some vinyl plank or vinyl tile over some existing tile. So check out what I've got. I went ahead and picked up me some Ultra Plan 1 Plus, a thing of primer T, a measuring bucket, and a flat trowel. Now, what a lot of guys will do is just come in with like a skim coat patch and just skim coat all the grout joints. But I'm not typically one to do that. I like to come in and find my low spots and actually self-level the kitchen to an extent to get it as flat as possible rather than just fill the voids if possible, so that I can actually achieve the best insulation possible, being that these vinyl planks can have some pretty fragile locking mechanisms, and over time you run into issues. All right, I'm over here at the job site. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna be installing. So here's our substrate. It's an existing tile floor. The grout joints are 3/16 to a 1/4 inch, which is for it to be able to lay over without having any kind of transfer with these new rigid core vinyl planks. Back in the day, this was a huge no-no every time. Here still, it's probably a no-no. And to be honest, in some spots, this probably isn't perfectly bonded to the floor, but if you go through, you don't hear any movement. There's some spots where the grout is cracked out from some movement, but it's still structurally stable enough to receive, in my opinion, a floating floor and a little bit of leveler. So these planks or tiles are fairly big, where they're not too big. So I'm going to use a 4-foot level to check for flatness everywhere, because again, we're not going for level, we're going for flat. We want this floor to feel comfortable under our feet and not have movement, so that that will cause the locking mechanism to break over time. What I'm going to do is go over the floor and try to find any low spots within 4 feet or drastic crowns within 4 feet. But to be honest, what's most important is that we find any hard tile edges where there's lippage, and we eliminate that with leveling compound. What we're going to do is we're going to try to float out from the highest parts of the floor and skim about 1/8 of an inch over this entire thing, trying to achieve flatness. Again, we're not going for level, we're going for flat. We want a substrate that will support the floor and will not have any transfer in the future. This right here would be a perfect example. We're flat for the majority of this area right here, but there's a crown in front of the fridge. So as we come this way, we do remain flat until we get to a certain point. Now this tile right here tends to level out a little bit, and then due to some lippage and stuff as well, and the crown, you can see we become way out of whack. So what we want to do is try to eliminate this high spot and some of these hard tile edges before we install. This is what we'll be installing. It's like a 15 by 30 something. It's a 12 mil with the 5 mil wear layer. It's got the thin rubber pad on the back. What we're gonna do is flatten everything out as best we can, so that we can start that row right off that high spot and allow everything to roll over it, and keep anything from bouncing or from sticking way up in the air and then having movement. And what it'll do is, over time, it's going to break this brittle ass little tongue right here from the deflection in the floor. So there is codes to this, which I'll go over here in just a second, but when you're in the trenches, you just got to get it flat, man. So that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to get this motherfucker flat. And if you don't know what the trenches are, ask the homie Levi. Levi, I'll tell you. Dude, not all these jobs are $1 million mansions. Not every fucking specification can be followed. What you have to understand is what causes damage to these floors and what you got to do to prevent it. And that's what we're doing today. Now, since it's my responsibility to tell you what it should be at, guidelines for these floors are ridiculously crazy. It's 3/16 of an inch in 10 feet that you can have for a low spot, or 1/8 of an inch in 6 feet. Now, once you've had these materials in your hands and you've installed them in multiple ways that you should or shouldn't, you get a feel for what they will and won't do. In this situation, I know what this product will and won't do. So I'm gonna do what I need to get the floor to where it needs to be for me to be able to install it for these people without creating more issues or headache. They need it done, they need it to last, and that's what my job is to make it do. All right, well, I was a little insecure about my slew patch job to get this thing flat. And my advice is, if you're not totally confident in how smooth your slew ended up, stick it out. The stuff dries super quick if you mix it to the right water ratio, and you should be able to walk on it within a couple hours, and you can scrape out any ridges the same day if you're worried about them being drastic. That way you're not wasting time the next morning trying to scrape or sand them out. We've all had issues with slew. We know how it goes. A lot of times the answer is stick it out for an extra hour, wait for it to stiffen up, and then scrape your ridges off like so. So you can see this is already starting to dry a little bit. I actually misted some of this over here with some water because you could see got a couple low spots right here. I was trying to get it to kind of flow together, but all this turned out real smooth. You can see right here where I've already kind of scraped some of the high stuff away. Already scraped all this stuff away, so this should be pretty fucking flat by now. Over here I scraped away as well. It's still a little wet, so it looks a little bit funky, but I got two little craters right there, and then you can see the lines where the high spots were that I scraped out. And from here I'll kind of go across the floor, look for any more, and scrape them out while it's still soft, just because tomorrow it'll be more brittle, and it'll be a lot harder to scrape them out. Sometimes you even have to sand them out. So. So as you can see, this floor laid fine over that. Was it in guidelines or specifications? Absolutely not. Did we do exactly what we needed to do to get the job done without having any movement in the floor? Absolutely. This floor will last forever, a lifetime. And most people, being professionals, would have turned it down. When in all reality, a true professional would have taken it on if it could be done and did it the right way. Let me know what you think. Peace.